Good morning, everyone. In today's class, we will be paying attention on growing concerns in India-Nepal relations. The reason why I have taken up this particular issue is because of the recent arisal of this particular dispute, what you call as the Scalapani dispute. Once again, this issue got resurfaced because as the Indian Defense Minister recently inaugurated one road stretching up to 80 kilometers in Uttarakhand, so that is adjacent to Nepal, where this disputed territory is there. So, due to which Nepal once again made this as an issue. At the same time, this time Nepal, it's not like previous times. In previous times, Nepal used to make this as a concern, but now, recently, what it did, it eventually passed one bill in the parliament, and for that, it even got the support of the opposition. The bill became an act. So, in that, the regions that are it considered right as of now, we are claiming that this Kalapani region belongs to us. But Nepal, after passing this particular bill, included this particular territory into the Nepal is one of the districts. So again, now this created a huge furor in the relations. So we even decided to have a foreign sector level talks also for that. So in that context, we are discussing about this particular issue. Okay, so where this particular issue can be used, as we all know, this issue can be used in two ways. Either you can use it in GS paper 2, because there we have this topic called as international relations. At the same time, we have in GS3 internal security. In internal security, we have a subtopic called as border management. So in the border management, we will also discuss about the border disputes. So there also this issue can be used. Okay, so again in international relations, where you can best use this when you are dealing with bilateral relations, especially with respect to the neighbors. There, this particular issue can be effectively used. Okay, so next, when it comes to the details, what are the various dimensions of the in what are the various ways we can understand this particular issue? Because ultimately here we are discussing about India's Nepal relations. Why there are growing concerns in the relationship between India and Nepal. Okay. Are these concerns are of recent past, or do we have any historical background for this? So, for any issue, to understand the issue better, it's better to divide the issue into two dimensions. What I mentioned here as chronological dimension and the spatial dimension. If you want to understand the issue, especially with respect to these international relations, it's better to divide the issue into two dimensions, chronological dimension and the spatial dimension. So what exactly is chronological dimension and what is the spatial dimension? Chronological dimension means, as we all know, chronology, understanding the issue on the basis of timeline. So yesterday what happened, today what will happen, like tomorrow, today what exactly happening, tomorrow what will happen, like this. So understanding the issue on the basis of timeline. Second one is what you call this as the spatial dimension. What this spatial dimension means, understanding the issue on the basis of its geographical location. Now, if you apply this concept to India and Nepal relations. Now, if you see, first thing, if you want to understand the issue in chronological dimension, we should understand the issue in such a way, like since independence, since 1947, how the relationship between India and Nepal are actually growing. Do we have any concerns? It means like, do we have any positive sides of it, or do we have any negative sides of it? So we will be discussing this since independence. Since 1947, how the relationship between India and Nepal is growing. Second one is spatial dimension. Because if you see the strategic location of Nepal, right now it is located very strategic, very much strategically between two big powers. Towards the north of it, we have China. Towards the south of it, we have India. So, because Nepal is located strategically right now, it is very much important for India, both India and China, to have a good relationship with Nepal. Vice versa is also true for Nepal. So, now because it is strategically located, by taking this strategic location into consideration, we should try to frame the relations with Nepal. So that's why, though right now if Nepal says, suppose like if Nepal passed the bill and that created some anger in India, it does not mean that we should we should be like we should feel either we should not feel much saddened by this. We should try to resolve the issue. What is the best way through which we can resolve this particular issue? In that way, we have to think rather than creating enmity with Nepal, because Nepal is situated in such a position that it is very much strategically located. If you increase the disputes with Nepal, it creates further challenges to our own international relations. Because as we all know, if you see the quote of Kautilya, he once mentioned, you can change your friends but you cannot change your neighbors. So that's the real point here, because you have to live with your neighbor. So that's why maintain, always try to at least maintain a better positive relations with your neighbors. So in that context, the spatial dimension will be useful. So the next one is why there's a growing concern right now. This is the second issue. Why it's suppose, for example, why previously also we used to have relations with Nepal, and Nepal, we never thought like one day with Nepal also we have to we have to face this kind of challenges, because we have a free border movement with Nepal. If you see the 1950 friendship treaty, in the year 1950, friendship treaty was signed between Nepali kingdom and the Indian Republic. According to the treaty, Nepal will be respecting our foreign relations. It means without our permission, Nepal will not use its territory against India. At the same time, Nepal will not take any major foreign policy decision um, without intimating India. So first it will consult India, later it will take the decision. At the same time, we will provide all weather support to Nepal if at all Nepal faces any of the sovereignty related challenges. If Nepal faces any of the sovereignty related challenges, then India will go for the rescue of it. So at the same time, we have a free movement of people. With only two countries, right now, India is having this treaty with Nepal and Bhutan. So there is a free movement of people from Nepal to India and India to Nepal. This is all because of the friendship treaty that got signed between these two countries. But when we have such a strong relationship, but why right now there are growing concerns? Definitely here on one side, changing political dimensions in the Nepal. Second one is, as I mentioned here, the role of China. Because the role of China, the rising China wants to pose more challenges to India, especially with its neighbors. So definitely here one such is Nepal, and for that we are also one of the reasons for that. So our way of tackling Nepal's issues are also one of the reasons. The way we handled the 2015 blockade, or the way we handled the previous, suppose for example, the previous supporting of the Nepali king over the Nepal's Jan Andolan movement, that we will be discussing in next coming slides. So these are the growing concerns. So next one is how we are actually tackling this issue. Do we have any predetermined strategy to tackle this particular issue with Nepal? And next, ultimately, what should be the way forward? So this is the way we can actually discuss the whole issue. It's a kind of comprehensive analysis. Now let's come to the first one. What exactly happening in Nepal? How this political situation in Nepal got changed or getting changed? If you see, let me first give you a brief history about Nepal here. As we all know, till till early 2000s, till early 2000s, to be specific, up to 2005 2006, Nepal used to be under the kingdom, like Nepal is kingdom, what we used to call. Right now, we are saying that Nepal is democracy, but previously Nepal used to be under the kingship. So, since so many years, it is under the kingship. But after some time, suppose if you correctly observe, in the whole South Asian region right now, only we have two kingdoms. We used to have the Bhutan and the Nepal, but eventually they both also got converted into democracy. But if you see the power transformation in Nepal and the power transformation in Bhutan, these two are actually two different. The power transformation in Bhutan is very smooth. The king himself agreed for the democracy. The king himself allowed democracy to happen and elections to take place. Though we have a constitutional monarchy there, it means the head of the state is king. Okay, but there will be a democracy in terms of maintain relations with people. Okay, same happened right now even in Nepal, but the power transition, it means the transfer of power from king to the people is very smooth when it comes to Bhutan, but not the same when it comes to Nepal. Okay, there are multiple factors for this because uh, for years in Bhutan they used to have this what you call within the country also they are the ones who maintains very the king used to be very much benevolent to the people. It's not the case when it comes to Nepal. So that's why Nepali people has to go for the hesitation. This agitation eventually took a massive outlook in the year 1990s. In 1990s, what we call that famously as Jan Andolan. In the English translation, Jan Andolans means people's movement. So there actually the role of communists you have to see. So that's why in Nepal we will be seeing the Maoist people. We have these Maoist political parties. Okay, so this Jan Andolan movement for the first time started in Nepal in 1990s. The very purpose of this movement is to get power to the people. Okay, this continued, but after some time the movement got suppressed. But again the movement got resurfaced in 2000s. But this time with a stronger note. This time the movement got succeeded because further there are other reasons also. We have seen massive royal family killings, deaths in the royal family of Nepal, and after that subsequent weakening of the royal kingdom. So when the royal family got weakened, this was taken as an opportunity by the other political leaders in Nepal. Eventually they succeeded in the Jan Andolan too. Since 2005-6, so these people want to establish a constitution for Nepal, a democratic constitution. Okay, so for the establishment of a democratic constitution, they eventually took up to 2014. Till 2014, they haven't got any official democratic constitution. Finally, when they got the constitution for Nepal, that means the democratic constitution, the one challenge got emerged here is the challenge with respect to the Madheshi population. Who are these Madheshis? Madheshis, these are the population, they are residing adjacent to India in the plain areas. In the plain areas, adjacent to India, this population used to live. This Madheshi population got very huge cultural contact with India, especially with Bihar, Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh, like that. So, what happened here in Nepal, when the new constitution got formed, here, when you read NCRTs, you will understand the concept called as power sharing. So this power sharing example you can also typically use. In NCRT, the example was given with respect to Belgium and Sri Lanka. But this example also you can use. the power sharing between the hilly population and the plain population got some differences, because majority of the hilly population are there in Nepal, especially Gorkhas. This hilly population, they want to have a complete control over the resources. That's why they started what you call dividing the Madhesi population. Rather than keeping all the Madhesi population in one constituency, they divided the Madhesi population into multiple constituencies so that these people will not have much power. This created much anger among the Madheshis. This they eventually went for the blockade in the year 2015. What we call that famously as the Nepali blockade, that blockade along India-Nepal border. So what this Madheshi population did? This Madheshi population, they stopped all the essential food supplies and oil supply to Nepal from India. Because most of the Nepalis, they used to get supplies from India. When they stopped it, it indirectly supported by India also. Indian government also indirectly supported this Madheshi population. This created huge anger among the youth and among the hilly population. Okay, so this we thought like we will teach a lesson to Nepal, but eventually the youth in the Nepal, they felt like India wants to dominate us. Ours is a democratic, sovereign country, independent country. How can we will be dominated by India? This provided an opportunity for some of the political parties in Nepal to utilize this issue. That time they utilized it, they won the election. Okay. At the same time, this further allowed China, okay, to strengthen its relationship with Nepal in terms of providing funds, in terms of providing infrastructural support. In this way, China slowly started entered into Nepal and strengthening its position because of our disturbances in the relationship. So this is what. So this is the kind of churning that is happening in Nepal in the recent past. What you see. Okay. Now let's come to the recent issue. On one side, when the churning is happening, again one issue got resurfaced. That is what we call as the Kalapani issue. So what exactly this Kalapani issue is all about? If you see, if you take the case of this Kalapani issue, it's not a new issue. Kalapani is a territory. Okay. That is, if you see Uttarakhand, adjacent to the Uttarakhand, connecting to the Nepal, there we have this Kalapani place, Kalapani territory. So, way back in 1816, when Sugauli Treaty was signed between the Nepali Kingdom and the British India, in what way the treaty was signed? See, we have this Kali River. In Kali River in India, what we call that a Sharda River. It is one of the tributary to the river Ganga. If you see, it comes from Uttarakhand, Bihar, like that. So, this Kali River, they considered as a division. That means the west of the Kali River and the east of the Kali River. The area that is eastern side of the Kali River belongs to Nepal. And listen to this point carefully. The area that is eastern side of the Kali River belongs to Nepal. And the western side of it belongs to British India. So this is what they agreed for in the Sugauli Treaty. Both the sides. But the question is, where this river is actually getting originated. Okay, Nepal right now is claiming that, see, this river got originated way back near to the Limpiadura. Limpiadura is a place. Okay, because this river got originated in Limpiadura, the areas that are eastern side of the Limpiadura, that means Limpiadura, Kalapani, Lipu Lake. All these three places belongs to Nepal. So this is what Nepal is claiming. Okay, in support of which it already passed one bill as I mentioned. One bill was passed in support of these three and claiming that all the three places belongs to Nepal. Okay, but on the other side, India is claiming that, see, first of all, this Kali River, it's not originated in Limpiadura. It got originated way down to the Limpiadura. Okay, so in that context, Kalapani will not belongs to Nepal, it belongs to India. Okay, so it once and this is one thing India claiming. So the second thing is, if you see, recently two things. One is the recent inauguration of road. Before that also, in the year 2019, 2019, when we created by abrogating Article 370, we converted the state of Jammu and Kashmir into two union territories: Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir and Union Territory of Ladakh. So that time when we are redrawing the maps of India, there this Kalapani actually got included in India because this is our land. So this is with this we include in India. This what Nepal is saying. How can you include the disputed place into your area? Nepal made this as an issue that time. Second time, recently, when the Indian Defense Minister inaugurated one road, a stretch of 80-kilometer road up to this Lipu Lake, when he inaugurated this road, Nepal made this as a big issue. How come you inaugurate a road? How come you construct a road and that too near to the Lipu Lake when it is in the what you call controversial territory? But India is saying that that land belongs to us. At the same time, this Lipu Lake is very much strategically important for us. Because why it is important? This is what mentioned by the defense minister. This construction of the road near to the Lipu Lake is important for three reasons. The first one is strategic, because if you construct the road up to there, you can easily mobilize the forces because it is one of the tri-junction. Remember, this Kalapana region is one of the tri-junction. Tri-junction means where three countries can be getting accessed. One is India, on the western side we have Nepal, on the northern side we have Tibet, that means China. So Kalapani is a tri-junction for these three countries, India, Nepal and China. So definitely it's a very strategic location. So India has to strengthen its infrastructure near to the strategic locations. So in that context, laying down of this road near to the up to the Kalapani, that means up to the Lipu Lake, is very much essential for India. First one. Second thing, it will also strengthens the trade because now you can easily transport, as we have the road constructed, the vehicular movement will be faster. So in this way it will be strengthening the trade. Third, this is most important one. If you see right now, we have this Manas Sarovar in the Tibet, that is the abode of Lord Shiva. So every year we have these pilgrims who will be visiting to the Manas Sarovar. Okay, so to visit to the Manas Sarovar, there are actually three ways. Three ways we can visit. One is via Himachal Pradesh to Nepal and China. Second one is via Uttarakhand, Nepal and China. And third one is via Sikkim and China. Okay, these are total three ways. So first one, I will be showing you the rest of the two passes later. With respect to Himachal Pradesh, the pass is Shipkila Pass. Shipkila, Shipkila. With respect to Uttarakhand, the pass is Lipu Lake. Lipu Lake is actually the pass. Pass means the area between two big hills. Okay. And the third is Nathula Pass. Nathula, Nathula. Nathula Pass is in Sikkim. You know the Nathula Pass is famous. Why? Because Dalai Lama, when he came to India for the first time in 1959, he actually came via the Nathula Pass. And when the war took place between India and Nepal, when the war took place, then after that, this particular Nathula Pass actually got closed. But recently in 2006, we again reopened the Nathula Pass. So like that, we have total three passes. But if you see, Shipkila Pass through via Himachal Pradesh, Nathula Pass via Sikkim, these two passes, if you see, pilgrims can travel only 20% in India, 80% they have to travel in Nepal and China. Remember to this point. Via Shipkila Pass and via Nathula Pass, Indian pilgrims who wants to visit to Manasarovar, that means this Amarnath temple, they have to walk or they have to travel 20% is only on the Indian side. Rest of the 80% they have to travel via Nepal and China. Whereas when it comes to the Lipu Lake Pass, 80% of the travel is in India, only 20% of the travel will be in Nepal and China. So that's the advantage. So this construction of this road is also very much useful for the religious purpose. So that's the reason we have to construct. So as I mentioned here, you can see the other two passes are the Shipkila Pass and Nathula Pass. But if you see this construction of road, we started way back in 1999 when Cabinet Committee on Security approved for road construction. Way back in 1999 we thought of to construct, but till 2017 we haven't accelerated, though we are constructing the road, but it's a very slow process. But in 2017 we realized that at any cost we have to accelerate the road construction process, because in 2017 we have seen one issue, what you call that famously as Doklam standoff. Doklam is a trijunction. As I told you, we have three trijunctions. One trijunction is at Kalapani, that is India, Nepal and China. One trijunction is at Doklam. Doklam means near to Sikkim. If you see north side of the Sikkim, there you can see the Doklam plateau. So Doklam is a trijunction between China, India, Bhutan. There is another trijunction, that is Pak occupied Kashmir, POK. That is a trijunction between India, China and Nepal. Sorry, Pakistan. So like that we have total three trijunctions. So when this Doklam standoff took place, when India, actually Doklam is not a place belongs to India. Doklam plateau belongs to Bhutan. Doklam dispute is actually a dispute between India, Bhutan and China. But why India supported Bhutan here? Again, because we have a friendship treaty with Bhutan. According to the India-Bhutan Friendship Treaty in 1949, if any other country, if they comes and if they creates a challenge to Bhutan, then India will go for the rescue of it. At the same time, we have our own selfish interest here. What is the selfish interest here? If you do not support Bhutan, then China will dominate Bhutan. Eventually, that creates a threat to India also. So that's why we have to give support to Bhutan. That is what we famously call as the Doklam standoff. Okay, when the Doklam standoff took place in 2017, China made a claim that what if Doklam is not there, we have Kalapani and we have POK. Those are the other true trijunctions. We will see there. This made India to strengthen its road construction along the Kalapani. So we thought like we have to take care of our trijunctions. That's why we intensified the road construction project. Eventually we finished in the recent past, because Kalapani is also one of the trijunctions. So that's the major reason. Okay. So these are the ways India is actually going for. This is creating a challenge to Nepal, like because it's a disputed place. So how come India will construct road up to Lipu Lake? So this Nepal is made as an issue. Though it's not a big issue, but now everybody knows why Nepal making this as an issue, because it wants to get uh, it wants to get some support from China. It wants to get some financial support, or it wants to bargain better, because previously there used to be only one power, that is we used to dominate the whole India's relations in the South Asia. But now China is actively participating. So that's why if you take the case of Pakistan, why Pakistan is getting the support of China, because these people are utilizing this opportunity right now. China also wants to keep India in the only Indian subcontinent, the South Asian region. So that's why China also playing this politics. That's why India should be very much careful in dealing these issues. Though the issue is very minor, but still we should deal with this issue with utmost clarity. Okay, so what should be the way forward then? In what way we have to tackle the issue? Do we need to aggrandize? Aggrandize means we should go with a heavy hand. We already did. in 2015. We want to teach a lesson to Nepal by way of blocking the supplies, but it actually backfired. Though we got the support of our Madheshi population, but we have to take the full support of the whole Nepali population. If you continuously aggrandize, that means tells to Pakistan, Nepal, like, if you don't listen to us, we know how to take care. Then unnecessarily it creates frustration, especially among the youth. Recently, the youth of the Nepal actually protested in Nepal. So they want that this Kalapani should be taken over by Nepal itself. So this we should be very much careful, because the present youth, with increasing years, they may strengthen negativity against India. So this is a very bad posture for India. We should not allow this to happen. So that's why, as early as possible, we should revive back the relations. We should reach to the normalcy. We should strengthen the bilateral relations by way of providing bilateral talks, like foreign secretary level talks. Okay. Next, getting people to people support. If any issue happens, because there are a lot many Nepalis in India, we should not discriminate them. We should not tell them like your country is doing something to us, so that we will take action against you. We should provide support to the Nepalis here, because it's a politics being played by the state there, the government, not the people. So that's why we have to provide support to the people. As we all know, the present prime minister, why he is playing all these politics, because he wants to get the support of the people by creating this kind of nationalistic sentiment. Okay, so that's why we have to provide support to the people. Next is completion of projects. Whatever projects we are initiating, it can be a power project or any other project, let us try to complete those projects in a timely manner. At the same time, don't try to take political sides when it comes to internal issues in Nepal. We have to provide equal support to the Nepalese ruling party and the Nepali opposition. Everyone is equal for us. But when it comes to India, except Pakistan, with other countries, we have this relation. If one party comes to power, they maintain positive relations with India. If another party comes to power, they maintain positive relations with China. But here, what we have to do is, like, we have to get the bipartisan support. Bipartisan support with all the political parties, irrespective of the ruling or opposition. Like that, we have to strengthen the relations. At the same time, if you see, Nepal doesn't have any sea access. To strengthen trade with Nepal, let us provide sea access to Nepal. That's why we came up with this idea called as BBIN, Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal corridor. We thought of this idea, but it is not fully implemented because Bhutan raises some concerns over it. Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal, BBIN. We want to have a road connectivity among these four countries. But due to some environmental considerations, Bhutan previously delayed, later denied the permissions. But these kind of initiatives we have to take up, so that we can provide access to Nepal, to the sea, so that the relation will be further strengthened. Next is joint exercises with Nepali forces. Anyhow, we are providing training to them. Let us further provide joint exercises with them, so that they too feel like, okay, we are not under them, we are with them. There is a difference. Being under and being with, these two are two different things. And next is providing aid and assistance whenever there is any natural disaster, because Nepal is highly prone to earthquakes. As it is one of the Himalayan states, majority of the Himalayan states are prone to earthquakes. They are under very high risk prone zones, zone 5. So that's why whenever if there is any natural disaster occurs, we have to provide aid and assistance to them. So like that, if we are able to do, then we can maintain better positive relations with Nepal. This eventually strengthens the relationship with the neighborhood. As we all know, we can change our friends, but we cannot change our neighbors. So that's why you have to maintain positive relations with the neighbor, so that you also can grow, neighbors also can grow. Eventually, the whole region will grow. Okay. So with that, I am concluding the topic. Thank you.